Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Sophie and this channel is chronicling my journey of living my best life with multiple chronic health conditions. Today I'm going to be talking about my tattoos, of which I have 17 now. Sort of why I got my first one, why I put them in the location I put them sometimes, what they mean to me. I will say there is a trigger warning simply because you will see my self-harm scars. That's not the point of the video, but they are part of why I get tattoos, as I have mentioned previously. So you will see them, and I also mentioned self-harm when talking about why I put them in some of the locations I do. So if any of that may trigger you, please don't watch. That's not the purpose of this video. I did decide that the best way to sort of show you the tattoos would be to do a voiceover of pictures that I had taken after I first got them, simply because that is when they are the best and the brightest, and that's also when I basically have photos of them that are of them specifically and not just of me with them being in the picture. So let's get into it. This was my first tattoo that I got in June of 2018. It is a lotus flower, and I just like the symbolism as the lotus does start growing in the murky dirt, grime, and then it flowers into this beautiful flower, sort of symbolizing going through a bunch of trauma and coming out the other side. And I decided to get it placed here on my wrist because at the time I was doing a lot of self-injury on this arm and knew if I had a tattoo or something like that over it, I would stop self-injuring there. This was a lot bigger than I had planned to get it. The artist had made the stencil ahead of time, and it was a surprise when I saw it how big it was, and he wanted me to really stop and think if I was going to be okay with it, and I said yes, like I want it. It's just bigger than I was planning, but it turned out beautifully. I absolutely love it. It did have to have it recolored, as you will see in a later pictures. It had faded quite a bit over the years, even though it hadn't been that long. I don't know if it was the ink, I don't really know. I did get it done, recolored with a different artist, so we'll see how long it lasts. But this was my very first tattoo, and as I'm sure some of you have heard, once you get your first one, they can be addicting, and to me, that was 100% what happened. Once I got one, I wanted more. This was my second tattoo, and it is a normal EKG strip with the semicolon in the middle of it. For those not familiar with the semicolon project, the semicolon in writing is used when an author could have ended a sentence but chose not to. So this represents you could have chose to end your life, but you chose not to. And when I saw this image or one like this online, I knew I wanted to get it simply because I have wanted to end my life for so very long and have made the decision not to. I don't really have a great picture of this tattoo simply because of the angle of the tattoo. So it says trust your struggle, which again, once I saw, I was like, yup, I definitely need that. And the goal was to have it be a mirror opposite of the tattoo I had gotten previously with the EKG and the semicolon. And both the artist and I apparently was not paying good enough attention because it is not at the same angle at all. Originally, I was flipping out about it when it was finished because obviously you can't really fix it, but it ended up being a good thing because I did get a tattoo under it, so it being at a more upward angle ended up being perfectly fine in the end. So this is Pusheen, which I'm sure some of you will be familiar with. I absolutely adore cats, and dogs for that matter. I love animals, but cats in particular I am very fond of. My dad, who was a friend of the family, who I called Dad, loved cats also. So to me, this just sort of represents him and I, just sort of a memory type thing. This is on the opposite ankle as the Pusheen tattoo. This one represents my great aunt and I. My great aunt basically raised me from the time I was 6 when my grandma died. So she was a very, very important person in my life, and she died in 2017. You'll see as we go on that my great aunt and dad had a huge part in my life, and a lot of my tattoos are sort of in memory and symbolic of them both. But she absolutely loved deer, and once I saw this, I knew that I had to get it also. I'm not sure what this is supposed to represent, but to me, it is two hearts with the infinity symbol. So again, in my mind, it's symbolizing my dad and great aunt's love for me for all infinity. And it is on the opposite wrist that the lotus tattoo is on. For similar reasons, though I don't normally self-injure on that arm, but my arms were, in my mind, lopsided, so I try to get tattoos to even myself out a lot of times, and that is why it is in that location. This is my favorite tattoo by far. It took multiple hours over 2 sessions, and I absolutely love it. It is a phoenix, and the symbolism there, sort of rising out of the ashes, kind of similar to the lotus flower. The phoenix is said to be born out of the ashes of the prior phoenix, so sort of rebuilding yourself from your prior self. And the artist actually drew this. This was his creation. He had taken a photo of the side of my body. This was prior to COVID, so I did not technically look like this. I had gained a lot of weight at this point, but he had taken a picture so he knew what my body shape was, and he hand drew that. And I had never seen it until the day I was getting it done. So I had a lot of trust in him. He has done most of my tattoos, and he is an amazing artist and tattooist for sure. This is a close-up of the phoenix, just so you can really see the coloring and the shading he was able to do. It's just absolutely beautiful to me. I have no idea how he did that with ink. I can see it being done with like crayons or stuff like that, but ink, I just don't know. Again, absolutely blown away by his ability, and again, my favorite tattoo by far. This is a song lyric from the song The Light by the band Disturbed. I definitely resonated with this lyric. Darkness can show you the light. Sometimes you've got to go through something bad before you get to something good. In high school, I actually came up with a quote that's almost the opposite of that, which is, "Darkness precedes light like the calm before the storm." So, in other words, something bad happens before something good, but once the bad stops, it's actually when things get harder for a while because you have to deal with it. So darkness precedes light, like the calm before a storm. And once I heard the Disturbed song, I was like, oh, I really like that. I want to keep that on me to remember it when I'm struggling with something that it's going to get better. This was something that my dad always said to me before a big test, for example. He would say, with your shield or upon it, sort of meaning do your best, like never stop trying. And again, trying to stay symmetrical, so this is on my opposite arm. I thought that was a good thing to keep in mind at all times as well, just to never give up, to keep trying. And here is where the channel gets its namesake from, the pegazebracorn. I don't actually know if that's what this is called. I had posted a picture to my Facebook of this, and one of my friends had commented that it was a pegazebracorn, a Pegasus or flying horse, a zebra, and a unicorn combined. And when I was searching for zebra tattoos, because of all of my rare conditions I have, and in medicine they say when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras, so think of something common that could be wrong instead of something rare. When with me, I have a lot of rare things going on, so they need to think of zebras, not horses. I ran across an image similar to this, and I thought it was perfect. And this is what I put under the Trust Your Struggle tattoo that is at a different angle than my EKG semicolon tattoo. And like I said previously, it worked out perfectly. If any of you are familiar with David Goggins, this concept comes from him, taking souls. He compares it to the movie Rocky, where Rocky is sort of down on the ropes and everyone's telling him to stay down, but he decides to get up and continue the fight, and his opponent just looks completely shocked and drained, and he calls that taking souls, that sort of not stopping despite adversity, even when people don't think you have a chance. When I was trying to find an image to symbolize this, I ran across this one and absolutely loved it. I've always loved skulls and stuff of that nature, so I thought it was perfect to represent the concept of taking souls. Staying with the skull pattern, I was a power lifter before I got sick. I have loved lifting weights since 2005. It was a very big part of my life and part that I miss very much. And I came across not this exact image. I actually sort of cut and pasted this together using a couple different images. But again, I love skulls, I love lifting weights, so I thought this was appropriate. I have probably gotten the most comments on this tattoo. Everyone that has commented has really liked it. I don't think they've really looked closely enough at it to really understand what it is. I think they just see the flowers and the vine and that's what they like. But within it are awareness ribbons of different colors representing some of the conditions I have or things that I've gone through. So there's going to be a few pictures coming up that just shows the entirety of it, as it does go around my whole arm. And the colors of the ribbons are orange for self-injury awareness, green for depression and mental health, yellow for suicide, periwinkle for an eating disorder, turquoise for dysautonomia, teal for PTSD as well as trigeminal neuralgia, and red for AIDS, which I do not have, but my mom had it, and that's sort of how my life started. She had it when I was born, so my life started out sort of rough from the beginning. As I turn my arm around, I'll just say that I haven't decided what I'm going to do on my other arm. I have obviously been diagnosed with more things and don't have all of the color ribbons that would apply to me. So I have considered doing a similar pattern on my other arm, but I'm not positive yet. I've also considered just adding more ribbons to this arm, but I don't know if I'm going to do that either. Also, in case any of you are wondering, this was completed in one session, one day. I don't remember how long it took, but not as long as you would think. That much I do remember. I had planned on it taking multiple sessions, but again, my artist is amazing. He actually freehanded all of the vines with a highlighter and then just tattooed over them. And the thorns he freehanded, like the only stencils were the flowers and the awareness ribbons. Literally everything else he freehanded. You can also see in this image on my wrist how much that first tattoo had faded compared to my new tattoo that he did. And he did recolor in the old tattoo to match my. This is my other calf, and sort of sticking with the weightlifting theme, I found this cute little image of a brain doing an overhead press with books. And I do love to read. I was voted the biggest bookworm in my senior year of high school. I've always been a very avid reader, so I thought this was very appropriate. I believe it originally had writing over it that said something about like training your brain, but I didn't want any of the words, I just wanted the image. This is another tattoo that originally we had thought would take multiple sessions, but again, he was able to do it in just one. Just so detailed, so good. I feel so lucky that I have found this artist, but I believe I made a video about amor fati and memento mori. They are Latin phrases. Amor fati is sort of love of life, sort of loving the life you have in the moment. And memento mori is remember you will die, which can be seen sort of two ways. One is sort of live to the fullest because you're going to die, and another is don't get too full of yourself because you too will die. Like, we're all not going to get out of life alive. And I love the imagery also with the trees and the skull again. So once I saw this, I knew I had to have it. Placement was difficult just because it is so large due to the amount of detail it had, and the leg was really the only option unless I wanted to do my other side or my back, and I just figured the leg made more sense here. These are my latest tattoos. I got them last weekend. I got my dad and great aunt signatures off of some birthday cards that I had kept, and I chose this location because my ankles are another place I would self-injure. So again, I will not be self-injuring over the tattoos, and also they're just sort of a good reminder that I was loved at one point, which sounds kind of sad, but it's still a good reminder. These tattoos actually only took about 10 minutes a piece, which is super quick. I don't think I've ever gotten such quick tattoos before. Mine normally take much longer, so that was an interesting experience as well. So that is my tattoos at the moment. I do not have any planned currently. Like I said, I am debating on what to get on my other arm. It does feel kind of naked in comparison, and I just sort of feel lopsided. I like having things symmetrical, as I said throughout the video. My artist did sort of joke, does that mean you're going to get something on your other side? Because that is a painful place to get a tattoo because of your rib bones. And I said, probably not, but my thigh tattoo is on the opposite side, so I feel like that's sort of symmetrical to have two large tattoos sort of diagonally from each other. But yeah, this arm definitely feels naked in comparison to this one. So I don't know yet. I've had some thoughts, not really 100% certain, but definitely still thinking about it. As it is permanent, I don't want to make any quick decisions. Though this one was sort of a quick decision. I had the idea while I was sitting waiting to get another tattoo, and I talked to my artist while he was doing it, and he said, yeah, we can totally do something like that, and we did. But I'm sorry this is so long. I did try to separate it into upper and lower body, but then it was still really lopsided because I have so many more on my upper body. So the videos were like 18 minutes and 5 minutes or something. It just didn't make any sense. But that is my tattoos and the story behind them. And with that, I will talk to you guys next time. Bye, guys.